Are we about to see the return of the Pinnacle to take on the Hurt Syndicate now that MJF has been officially kicked out of the Hurt Syndicate by MVP last night on Dynamite? We'll talk about that as well as other things that happened on Dynamite right here on Screw the Script. Dynamite last night was a really good, solid weekly episode. We saw really good matches, and we saw storylines progress, and a storyline end that I think is going to go into a new storyline and a new feud, which we'll get into that in a few minutes. But quickly, let's go over what happened last night on Dynamite. The opening contest was against Moxley and Speedball Mike Bailey, and it was probably Mike Bailey's best match since joining AEW, singles match anyways. Moxley really put him over. It was a tough contest. I think it went about 15 minutes, give or take a minute or two for the match length. Mike Bailey looked great. That back-flipping knee move that he does, whatever it's called, I forget what it's called. He's got a name for it. When he did that to Moxley on the barricade, that looked really fucking painful. Moxley does pick up a win at the end. He hit a beautiful looking paradigm shift. It was really, really good. The Fatal 4-Way match between Alex Winsler, Billy Starks, Queen Aminata, and Sky Blue was a TBS Championship qualifying match. Really, really good match. I think all four of these competitors really shined in the match. I am intrigued to see where things are going to go with Billy Starks and Athena. I truly do believe at some point this year, or maybe early 2026, Billy Starks ends up turning on Athena and turning face, and then we see those two have a feud for that ROH Women's Championship that Athena's held on for a very long time. Queen Aminata looked great. Sky Blue looks good now that she returned a few weeks or so back, maybe a month. But we see the winner being Alex Windsor, who just recently signed with AEW officially, like last month. And she's had really good matches since joining. And this was yet another good one. So I think ultimately it is going to be between Windsor and Mercedes Moné at Forbidden Door. I don't know if she beats her, though. I'm not quite sure who's going to beat Mercedes for that TBS title. Not entirely sure where this is going, how long Mercedes is going to hold on to that TBS title along with the other 7 belts that she now has. I mean, she looked ridiculous when she came out with all of those. But solid Fatal 4-Way match nonetheless. I think my favorite match of the night, though, was the tag team match that we had next between Brodito, who I absolutely love these two together. They work perfectly together. You got Bandito, who is, the smaller, high-flying guy, quick in the ring. And then you got Brody King, who is the exact opposite. Big guy, muscle, powerhouse, tank of a wrestler. These two are great together. And then we saw the Young Bucks come out, and before the match started, they demanded backstage that they would be introduced properly this time around, and even handed a card to be read, and it completely backfired on them. It was hilarious. The entrance wall, or whatever you want to call it, the Titantron wouldn't open all the way for them, so they had to crawl under there like a broken garage door. And then their nameplate said this, or the nameplate that popped up was a callback to their Generation Me tag team that they formed way back in their early years in TNA. Absolutely hilarious that they were Max and Jeremy on the screen. This whole storyline, I think, is absolutely funny, and I'm standing by it. I said it on a previous video, but I think this is slowly going to make the Young Bucks turn back to face. They're getting humbled every single week now that they've lost their EVP power, and I think eventually we are going to see the Young Bucks of old return from the early days of AEW as a face. They'll probably bring back that old music that everybody seems to love. And fingers crossed, I'm still holding out and hoping that they bring back BTE now that they allegedly aren't EVPs anymore and aren't taking on such a big role on screen anymore. Maybe they'll have free time again to bring that back, because I loved BTE. This match was fantastic, and we haven't even gotten to the best part.
We saw this in the opening round, and now... Oh my God! 1, 2, 3!
Brodito wins. An upset. I'm sure most people went into the match thinking that the Young Bucks were still going to win and still, find their way to the finals of this tournament and then ultimately probably even win. But no, they lost. This very much feels like their surprising loss that they had to Private Party like 4 years ago. Early days of AEW. Actually, it was probably about 5 years ago now. Really good tag match. This went on a lot longer than I thought it would go on for, too. I think it was a solid 20-minute tag team match. It felt very much like a pay-per-view quality tag match that we got for free on just a Wednesday night episode of Dynamite. And it truly proves that this is where the best wrestle, because you will not see a tag team match of that quality ever on a weekly episode of Raw or SmackDown. Maybe NXT, because I really do actually like Axiom a lot, or Fraxium, I should say, between Nathan Frazier, who was in AEW at one point, and I do think that they dropped the ball on signing him, because him and Axiom over in NXT, unless they're called up to SmackDown, I can't quite remember off the top of my head right now. They are my favorite tag team over in WWE right now. We saw a lot of promos happen backstage, and this is what we're going to get at too, which was the main headline, I think, of Dynamite besides some of these matches. We saw MJF officially get kicked out of the Hurt Syndicate by MVP backstage, saying that Bobby Lashley was coming for him. I think this is where Wardlow returns. I truly do think that this is leading towards a Pinnacle reunion that will take on the Hurt Syndicate, and if anybody's going to dethrone Lashley and Benjamin, it's going to be the Pinnacle. Whether that's a new sort of formation of it, or if MJF just brings back the original members in FTR and Wardlow. If MJF wants to beat Bobby Lashley, this is where Wardlow returns. You have him return, you have him help MJF beat Bobby Lashley, which would just further infuriate MVP and the whole Hurt Syndicate group as a whole. And then right there, you got, your money feud heading into All Out in September. Because I don't think this will happen as early as Forbidden Door later this month. I think they push it a little bit further to All Out in September. Or if they want to play the long card, they don't have it happen until All Out in September. Let's say one of the matches at All Out in September is MJF versus Bobby Lashley. And then you have Wardlow return there. Maybe something like that happens. But I do see Wardlow returning. And I think it's most likely him returning and joining MJF. Then the main event, we saw Mark Briscoe take on MJF in the main event, and it was a really, really good main event. The interesting thing was what happened at the end of the match. We saw MJF pick up the win after getting a heat seeker on Mark Briscoe, but the referee didn't see Briscoe's leg on the bottom rope, and MJF is the winner of the match. But where does this go? Do they have a match again at Forbidden Door? That's where I likely see this going. Briscoe, challenges him again, saying hey, there's a rope break, ref didn't see it. I want a rematch. Maybe they do something a little bit bigger. I would love a steel cage match. That'd be awesome. I love steel cage matches in AEW. But I think that this feud will end at Forbidden Door, and then we'll finally see what I predicted a minute ago in the Pinnacle reunion versus the Hurt Syndicate. That's all I had in this episode of Screw the Scripts covering Dynamite last night. Solid show, 8 out of 10. There's a couple things that I could knock it for, but all in all, for a weekly episode of Dynamite, it was really good. So 8 out of 10 for that show. You let me know down below, what do you think about this MJF and Hurt Syndicate stuff? Do you see the Pinnacle returning and Wardlow helping out? Where do you see this feud going with Mark Briscoe? And then the Young Bucks stuff, where do you think that is going to lead up to? Let me know your thoughts on Dynamite from last night down below. As always, this has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for watching.